Hi guys, have you ever done something that seemed cool and unique, but in the end it was just self-depreciating and traumatic? You played Triggerman 2? It's a wonderful time to be a gamer, and an even better time to get into gaming. We're being blessed with some of the most incredible experiences in this medium's history, titles that have, or soon will, cement themselves as generational classics. But in the rush to experience the newest release, it's inevitable that some games get lost in the shuffle, buried in an ever-growing library of titles, many left abandoned or forgotten, never given a second or even a first chance. The same is true for retro gaming. While it's easy to pick out childhood favorites as standout nostalgic gems, there's far more to the past than The Legend of Zelda, Final Fantasy, and GoldenEye. Lurking in the shadows of titles that dominate every best retro games list are those that were underappreciated, overlooked, or simply ignored. In this series, we revisit games of previous generations to see how well they hold up, and whether they're worth tracking down physically or better left forgotten. Today, we're discussing Triggerman, a third-person shooter from 2004. Does it hold up more than 20 years later? And is it worth adding to your shelf? Welcome to Under the Spotlight. Triggerman launched for the Xbox, PlayStation 2, and GameCube, and is hands down one of the best budget titles on 6th generation hardware, is what I'd say if I were a raging delusional psychopath. Thankfully, I'm mentally stable, and can confidently say that despite the game's intent to be an enjoyable value bin action experience, it never even comes close to clearing a bar set so low, it makes Turok Evolution look like a masterpiece.
Is that a gram?
It's literally one of the best games ever made. What you think?
Whoa. Very nice.
The game was developed by WNT Games and published by Crave Entertainment, and frankly, it's a miracle it ended up in any other bin other than the one labeled trash. On paper, it should have been an easy sell. You play as a hitman for the Mafia, specifically the Cola D'Angelo family, and carry out hits on the Don's orders as the story unfolds. Take out your targets however you see fit for $20. A surefire formula for the time, right?
Supposedly not.
Triggerman fails to deliver on every front, turning what could have been a gritty, budget-friendly experience into a laughably forgettable mess. It's visually bland, controls are a mess, the levels are uninspired nonsense, the gameplay loop is dull, the AI has soup for brains, and the story is non-existent, adding absolutely nothing to the overall experience. And then there's the aiming. Why? Why did they decide to include acceleration in the aiming mechanics? And why, for the love of all that is good in game design, do I aim the sniper rifle with the left stick? Of all the game's many flaws, this one might be the most instantly aggravating. With no aim assist whatsoever, the acceleration makes lining up a shot feel borderline impossible, or at least that's what most people who played the game would tell you, which, if I'm being honest, in spite of this issue, sounds like a skill issue. Aim acceleration is certainly one of the choices of all time and has no place in games where precise aiming is a key component. But let's be honest, it's not as game-ending as many make it out to be. Several reviews claimed that the aiming was so unbearable they were forced to resort to knifing enemies after running out of ammo, from struggling to land shots, or just straight up giving up on the aiming altogether. To which I have to ask, is your frontal lobe okay? Because let me just show you how difficult these enemies are. But what happens if you run out of ammo? Oh look, ammo! Now I don't say this to defend the game as good or to imply that the reviewers were horrifically bad.
I mean, it fits.
I say this in defense of the few things the development team actually got right, because frankly, there's not much to go on. There was little to no marketing for Triggerman, and almost nothing is known about its development, so without knowing how much time the team had or why certain decisions were made, I think it's only fair to give the game some benefit of the doubt. Unfortunately, that benefit only stretches about an inch. because one of the game's only redeeming qualities is how decent the weapons feel when aiming decides to work in your favor. If, like so many before, you choose to shoot enemies directly into their bulletproof vests, you're not gonna have a good time. You'll burn through ammo in seconds and struggle to take down even a single target. But with the right weapon and a slightly above room temperature IQ, what could have been a miserable experience becomes a slightly miserable one. Most of the weapons favor headshots, and throughout my playthrough, no matter the level or weapon, as long as I kept my CSGO trained instincts to aim head high, it really didn't matter what I used. Whether it was a pistol or an SMG, a single headshot reliably dropped any non-boss or unarmored enemy, and the shotgun offered similar results in tighter close quarters levels. So in spite of the abysmal aiming, this attention to detail with the hitbox almost made the gunplay teeter on being enjoyable until some other flaw inevitably gets in the way, like the enemy AI.
Mints, A1 please.
The second you feel even a flicker of dopamine, Triggerman's artificial intelligence swoops in to remind you, when a game feels bad, it can always feel worse. There's an ironic twist to calling the AI a flaw, because if it were actually functioning, there's a good chance this game would be even more unplayable than it already is. For the vast majority of the game, the AI does absolutely nothing. Outside of walking NPCs into a scene, it basically doesn't exist. Most of the time, enemies will just spin in place, stare at a wall, or completely ignore your presence. You could unload an entire magazine from across the room or right next to them, and they won't react at all. And if they do notice you, it's an entertaining gamble to see if they'll shoot, spin, or just go catatonic again. Sure, their lack of awareness makes aiming easier because, again, it takes 10 years to line up a shot, but it completely undercuts the fast-paced bloodbath the game so desperately wants to be. Instead, it's slow, clunky, and ends up feeling like a stealth shooter that has no stealth and seems to think shooting refers exclusively to recreational drug use.
Can he say that?
Honestly, if that were the only problem, I could chalk this up as a $5 distraction, something to laugh at, maybe even enjoy for all the wrong reasons. But that's not the case. When the game isn't laughably easy or painfully unintuitive, it swings hard in the other direction, becoming insanely difficult and in some cases nearly impossible to complete, thanks once again to our dear friend, Broken AI. If I had to simplify the AI down to a brightness setting, I'd say that for most of the game, it's just off, or maybe operating at a flicker of like 5 to 10% brightness. You can technically see it, but the room's still pretty much pitch black. Then out of absolutely nowhere, that switch just flips on, and the brightness spikes to 100%, blinding you and making a bad situation significantly worse.
Oh, I'm flashed. Dude, why is it that when I flash something, it just proceeds to stop?
In these moments, it feels like you're getting a glimpse of what the developers intended for the AI but never figured out how to balance. Suddenly, enemies start landing headshots, pre-firing your position, or see you through walls in sections that demand stealth. And one of the most jarring examples of this comes in the very first mission. You begin the level under orders from the Dawn to steal diamonds from a rival family's casino, because obviously, especially in the world of Triggerman, there's no democracy in the Mafia, just murder. And the Dawn doesn't care how you do it as long as it gets done. If you can stomach the gameplay long enough to make it through, you'll eventually be forced into a stealth section with mechanics that go about as deep as the B button on a GameCube controller. See, Triggerman apparently never kills cops, because that would bring too much heat on the Cola D'Angelo family. Forget the mountain of corpses leading from the entrance to an empty vault. This is where the moral line gets drawn. You're given little choice but to follow the game's stealth mechanics to a T, assuming these mechanics decide to actually work, because just like everything else in Triggerman, the stealth system teeters on the edge of a nervous breakdown. Your only way out of the casino is to sneak past responding police officers. On the surface, it seems simple enough. There are pool tables that could easily block their line of sight, and the far side of the room appears to lead straight to the exit. All you need to do is pick a table, wait for the AI to patrol, and make your move. Except it takes forever forever for them to start moving. And just when you think you've got it figured out, an officer spots you. Why? Because you weren't supposed to hide at that table. You were supposed to be behind this table. Or was it that table? Or that table? Fail the level enough times and you might stumble on the developer-intended hiding spot up the stairs and to the right, naturally. But even then, the idea of hiding and stealth is so wildly inconsistent that you realize the only reason this system exists is to artificially lengthen the game. The worst part is every major flaw in Triggerman has already made itself known, and we haven't even started the second level. The issues that haven't arrived yet to destroy my soul? Don't worry, they'll make the grand appearance right now. Starting with the game's horrendous level design. Now, to be fair, it's not the worst we've seen on the channel, but what earns it a spot in the upper tier of stinkers is the complete lack of objective markers, visual cues, or any kind of highlight system for interactive objects. It turns basic navigation into a guessing game powered by pure RNG. Let's play a game called Guess the Door.
If you pick the wrong door,
You'll have to pick another door.
The game doesn't use any kind of yellow paint or visual language to guide you, and the interact button only appears when you're basically kissing the object. No, is it this one? No, it's not that. Is it this one? No, it's not that one either. What about this one? Is it this one? Is it, what about? Oh, of course! It was this door! Moments like this are endlessly frustrating. Just when you start to grasp how the underwhelming systems work, the game spits in your face, forcing you to run in circles because you didn't approach the right recycled texture. And just when you think it can't get worse, the writing shows up to disrespect not only your time, but the entire Mafia genre. The story serves no purpose other than loosely connecting missions together. If you removed every cutscene and line of dialogue, you'd actually have a better experience. This is an actual cutscene. I am so sorry if you've played this game. The story has zero impact on gameplay. It doesn't even feel like a Mafia tale. Replace the names with something generic and it's basically just a bunch of armed adults throwing tantrums for petty high school level revenge. I mean, I wasn't expecting award-winning writing, but I was hoping for something more than I robbed him, so he killed my family, so I killed his family, so his family killed more of my family, so now I'm gonna kill even more of his family.
Well, that's a great story.
That's not a narrative. That's just the world's saddest game of funeral hot potato. I can't play this game anymore. I can't play this game anymore. We're just gonna skip ahead. We're just gonna skip ahead to the next section. Triggerman is a textbook example of a bad game. Poor development choices, half-baked mechanics, and a gameplay loop so dull it could put an espresso machine to sleep add up to what might be one of the worst video games ever released. Sure, there's some ironic enjoyment to be found in watching this mess collapse under its own weight, but whatever laughs you get are quickly drowned out by the flaws that go beyond quirks of the time, fundamental experience-breaking failures. Triggerman never once manages to capitalize on the concept it's selling. What should have been a gritty, low-budget Mafia shooter instead becomes a masterclass in missed potential. It's a game best left unplayed or conveniently watched in this video.
Come on, guys, it's not worth it.
Even when it hit store shelves in 2004, it was a commercial failure. Copies sat untouched, some of them marked down to just $1. Seriously, $1. And they still couldn't move them. It failed to capture an audience back then, and even now, if you spot a copy for $1
Or 7.
I'd still tell you, don't walk, run away, and never look back. There's no hidden charm, no cult classic potential, and no justification for the 4 hours it takes to beat it. Ironically, despite trying to be a budget-friendly alternative to higher budget games, there is absolutely no value to be found here. Whether it's $5, $1, or completely free, you should avoid Triggerman at all costs, because this game is, without a question, one of the worst I have ever played.